The More Movement Crew.
So welcome to the More Movement Crew podcast. We are back. I am your host, Kenina Porter, and this is season 4. This season is called What's Good. And basically what we're doing is we're checking in with previous guests from previous seasons and seeing what they've got going on and what they're up to. We believe that, power of life and death is in the tongue, right? And so as we were preparing to do another season, reflecting back at some of our previous seasons, we saw a lot of the things that our guests talked about actually manifesting, right? And so we thought it would be so dope and powerful to come back and to show you what our guests are now up to and doing. And so the first person that we wanted to make sure that we reached out to is here today, and it's Kenny Fresh Woods. We are so excited to have him back, and can't wait to hear what he's got going on. So, Kenny, you want to say what's up to the people?
What's up, people? What's up? More Movement Crew. We in this thing. You know what I'm saying? Season 4.
Season 4.
4.
We back. So I watched our last episode, and first of all, I want to say that was a good episode.
Like, yeah, it wasn't one of my favorites for a minute. Yeah, it's like
it was so good. I think that it was a combination of things. I think that for one, I'm gonna toot my own horn and be like, okay, this production looked like it was like on point, like background, you know what I'm saying, like lighting, everything was on point, and like I think that the conversation flowed really well. And I just think it was a really great interview. So even watching it now, and can you believe, Kenny, that was September 2019?
Yeah, I always double check because that mug, I thought it was 2018, but you wouldn't have known it was 2019. Look, when we first did that and it first released, I was watching that mug like 4, 5, 6 times. My wife was like, "You're just so vain." I'm like, "No, this is really good," because you had your boy looking crispy with the lighting, was mic'd up with the audio. You know what I'm saying? I was like, "Yo, I had never been to a spot that did it like that." You know what I'm saying? So I was like, "Yo, this is lit." It was really good, and sometimes I go back and watch it for like inspiration and motivation. I'm like, "Yo, I was really talking some stuff," and you asked some really good questions, and I thought that the conversation flowed well. But for a long time, that was like my favorite interview I'd done. I did something last year that was like, okay, but yours was up there for like a long time because I'm like, yo, this is hot. Yeah, I need more people to watch this. So yeah,
that was good. I mean, it was just really affirming to know. I think that like I could create, a space where people felt comfortable coming on the show. And then I just really feel like, as a viewer, if I was a viewer watching that episode, I'd be like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, this is some real good conversation, especially for people who weren't believers, just to understand how you were talking about, how people introduce you as the poet of God.
Yeah. I still laugh when I get to that part because I'm like, man, I don't think people do that anymore, but for a long time, I was known as the Christian guy, the Christian poet. So matter of fact, somebody was in my inbox this week trying to get me to come out to their church. And I'm like, nah, only because like, I'm not doing in-person performances. And we'll get to that more when we talk about what I've been up to, but yeah.
Awesome. So I'm excited to get started. Before we get started, I do want to remind, if you are watching us, please subscribe to this channel, like, share, all of that. We are back, and we've got an incredible season for you. We've got a great lineup coming up of guests that will share their story. So you don't want to miss it, and you definitely want to make sure that you hear what's going on with these people and how you can connect with them. That's the most important part. How you can connect with them, how you can get content, how you can buy merch, all that, right? So I sent Kenny a question. And usually we play a game called 5 Questions, but I wanted to scrap that this year. I wanted to come up with something a little different. One that it still kind of makes you think, but it kind of takes viewers to like understand where you are based on the music that you selected. So I thought that was a pretty cool concept. So the
Yeah.
question that I presented was current day. So we're talking about now. I need you to name 3 songs that you would consider to be the soundtrack to your life and explain each one. So take us on this journey.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. I was thinking, first of all, this is such a good question. Like, this is harder than the last one you asked me with the 5, because there's like, where am I at now? So what I did was I hopped to my handy dandy Spotify playlist, and you know, Spotify has those playlists called on repeat. So it's like, you know, the top 30 songs that you got on repeat. And so I was listening to those for an hour. Like, what songs kind of best represent where I am now? And I came up with the 3. It took a while. 2 came easy, but that third one, it took a while. So the first one is by an artist called Just Call Me DT, all one word, because he tried to go by DT, but it was too many. So he just put Just Call Me DT. And he's a Christian rapper. He's got a song called Rent Cycle. And what I really like about that song is the introspective, laid back beat. And he's speaking to overcoming obstacles, speaking to assignment, subtle blessings. I got a couple of the lines I wrote down that I really liked. It's like, lately I've been in my zone, writing and finishing songs, simultaneously righting my wrongs. And so I kind of felt like that line really touched me. Then he's got the last couple of lines on the song. It's like, I'm right where I belong, but could I be doing more? Before I take on any added pressure, I got to know what I do it for. So those lines really struck me, and it's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, I'm doing a lot of things, but before I take on any added pressure, I got to remember what I'm doing this for. And so that's one song that really, I think, kind of encapsulates where I'm at right now. The second song is always, anytime you ask me a question with music, there's gonna be a lo-fi song that finds its way, or a chill hop song that finds its way in there. And so this one is by 2 artists, Psalm Trees and I don't know how to say this guy's name. It's Guillaume Muscaye, I think. And the song is called Desire. It's from the album We Must Believe in Spring. What's crazy is Psalm Trees is a producer from the Netherlands, and the Guillaume guy, he's from France. Both of them have never met, but they made a whole album on the internet. And they've done songs together in the past, but they've just, to this day, they've never met. And so there's a real cool, like, 4-minute documentary on the album called We Must Believe in Spring. The French producer, he's also a guitarist. So he kind of, played some guitar loops and sent it to Psalm Trees, and they chopped it up. And so the album it came out in February. It's talking about We Must Believe in Spring, which is paying homage to an album called I Believe in Spring, or I Must Believe in Spring. And was pretty much talking about believing that there's spring, representing good times on the other side. So talking about, even in the middle of this pandemic and all this stuff, we got to believe that spring is coming. And so that's kind of where I feel like I'm at. I love the song. It was like the second single from the song. And what I'll do is I'll message you the link to my on repeat Spotify playlist, so people can check those songs out. So that's song number 2. And then the third song, it's Just Call Me DT again. He is a new recent favorite. For those who don't know, I write about Christian hip hop a lot for a Christian magazine / blog called Track Stars. That's Track Stars with a Z. And so it's almost like a job to keep finding and listening to upcoming Christian hip hop artists. And so this third song just came out July 30th, so a couple weeks ago. It's called Take Flight. And this is on the other side of the spectrum. So the other DT song was like introspective, laid back. This is more like an anthem, a banger. And it's just really talking about overcoming obstacles like fear and doubt. He dropped a really dope music video for it too, just talking about taking flight. So flying over doubt and fear. And that's kind of something that, like, even though it just came out a couple weeks ago, this is something that I need to listen to every day, because I have doubts. I was calling people just last week, trying to, just kind of feeling discouraged about some things, and just having them reaffirm that, you're doing good, man. You just got to keep building. You got to keep going. So those are my 3 songs that I think best represent what my life right now. It's crazy because I was like, if she had asked this question a week or 2 ago, it'd been 3 completely different songs. So that's why it's really cool. You sent it out. Like, I'm like, okay, well, it's not this song. I was feeling this a couple weeks ago. It's on my on repeat playlist, but that's not really where I'm at right now, which I think kind of speaks to how fluid life can be.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, I proposed the question because I want to just know, that's why I said current day, like where people are. And you just need a different word for different moments. And so, that speaks to you, kind of constantly encouraging yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about spring is coming and you're talking about I gotta get it, like I gotta be motivated. So that just really gives us an idea of like where you are in all of it, where you are, as a spoken word artist, where you are as a writer, as a businessman, where you are in all of these aspects. I figure like that question was appropriate
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah,
to
very
kind
much so.
kick us off. Plus, you and I, we like music, so it's always something that we're interested in. I've been listening to nothing but chill hop, like the summer. I'm still holding on to the summer one right now. Um,
Yeah. Fall will be here in a couple of months. I
all
think,
here, and I'll
matter
be
of fact, I think they just released something because they release every Monday. I think they released something either today or yesterday from one of their artists. So they're always constantly dropping. So there's always new chill hop to listen to. But that We Must Believe in Spring album, you need to check that. I think you'll really like it.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah.
If you send me the information, I'll post it with this episode so people can also check it out.
Okay, sure.
But I will say to anyone watching, if you have not listened to Chill Hop, is it Essentials?
Yeah, Chill Hop Essentials. Yeah. Chill Hop Essentials Summer 2021.
It will increase your level of productivity.
Yeah.
Right? It will increase. I was able to do a whole narrative like in a couple hours, just like getting it done. You know what I'm saying? So if you want something to focus and meditate on, definitely check out Chill Hop. So all right, so let's get to the questions. We gotta figure out where you are and what you've been doing because you've been up to a lot.
Yeah, I wrote down notes because I'm like, I don't want to forget anything because it's been a really good.
Give us everything. Give us everything.
Yeah.
So I watched the episode that we did, as I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
But in the episode, I asked, where do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you see yourself doing in the future?
Right.
And you said, I want to have merch. I want to have a spoken word album. I want to have t-shirts, buttons.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tour at colleges. I wrote all this down. I want a commercial, and I want to be featured in movies and highlight the spoken word. Mm-hmm. So with all that said, can you just take us through, where you are and what you've been doing, and just share because I'm excited to hear for you to share what you've been doing.
Yeah. First thing, I'm not even wearing my shirts because I just like, I feel like I wear the same couple of shirts. So, but what's crazy is right after that, because that we recorded in August, it went up in September, but by October, I was launching my merch line. So like literally a month after the interview aired. So like, if you guys go to the website, refresherpoint.com, you click fresh merch, the fresh merch tab. Like I have t-shirts and stuff with my logo, hoodies. Kanina's bought like the hoodie dress. I might have to bring those back for the fall and winter. But yeah, that's like the first thing. So like same year, a couple months later, the merch came up. And then and I think by the time of this, I think the next thing might be I was featured on an album. I've actually been featured on 2 projects since we talked. I remember that's something I said because I took notes on the episode too. Like I wanted to be featured on more projects. So there's a Christian rapper named Sham. He had a EP called The Obvious, and I'm like the very first voice you hear on that project. He let me do like the obvious song, so the title song. I'm the first voice on the first song of his first project, which was super lit. And then I had a friend from North Carolina. We both work for Track Stars, and he is a music artist as well. And he did an EP, and it was called just Jason Bordeaux. That's his name. And so I'm on an interlude. So that was really cool. So that's 2 features down. I have I've worked with some other people. I've sent verses in, and the one part thing is once you get your part done, you're waiting on the other musician to do their part. So there's a couple of singles I was supposed to be on that was supposed to drop like July of 2020 that haven't come out yet. So stay tuned for those. So that's the first couple of things. Touring, I didn't really tour, right? Obviously, like after we said this, the world kind of shut down in March of last year. But what I was able to do was pivot. And because, lots of artists and performing people were losing gigs left and right, we all kind of migrated to online. So I did several online performances last year and this year. And I'm try to go in order. But before we even get to that, April 3rd, 2020, I dropped my very first chapbook of poetry called Equilibrium. Covers designed by my wife, Marlisha. There's photos in there of me that were taken by the very talented Denisha McCauley. So this is actually from like a photo shoot we did back in like 2017. So that was like real big. I almost put it off because I was like, man, it's April, you know what I'm saying? Who's going to support the book right at the very, very beginning of the pandemic? Who's going to, you know what I'm saying? Who's going to support that? And my wife actually talked to me. She's like, one monkey don't stop the show. Even though it's a big monkey, like a worldwide monkey on our back. Said, let's go ahead and, still do it. Because the book was already written. I think I did finished up the writing after our interview. It was all done and like most of it was written. There was old poems, but most of it was written between like January and February, and March was just getting the formatting together and put it out in April. So that's actually been really, really cool. And it's been, people from, I can't even remember where, Philadelphia, just people from all across the country. I haven't really quite invaded the West Coast yet, but a lot of people from the Midwest and of course, Louisville, Florida, a lot of folks, places that I've been, they're really rocking with me. So that is really dope. It's opened up some doors. So that happened. And then, so we're still in 2020, right around Father's Day. I'm writing for Track Stars, and I got to watch this movie called Selfie Dad with Michael Jr., who's a Christian comedian. And, nobody asked me to, but I just wrote a review on the movie, and the studio, Kappa Studios, that made the movie, they loved it so much, they actually quoted a couple of lines from my review and used it in their marketing. So that was really lit. I was like, okay, dope. And I kind of started pushing the newsletter that I have. So if you go to my website, the very first thing you're hit with is, join my newsletter, subscribe. I don't flood your email. I send out every 2 or 3 weeks, and I don't sell your info. It's just really, because what I believe in building a community. And so anybody can get on the social media, but if you really want to stay connected, give me your email. I send out stuff. And I try to give the newsletter subscribers the first thing. So like maybe like 3 or 4 days before the rest of the world knew, my subscribers already knew about the book. So that's kind of the stuff that I try to do and give. So really focusing on building the community. I started leaning into that more. So we're talking about July. And then things kind of calmed down for near the end of 2020, but then I got a really big opportunity that you were a part of. So I got approached. I got approached in like November, December, to do a project with National Geographic. Their initiative called 2892 Miles to Go. And so that was me, Lance Newman, who is a poet and just kind of he does a little bit of everything, just Renaissance man. And then Marlisha Woods, my wife, we were wayfinders. And so they had this program, and Louisville was the pilot. So we kind of spent the next couple of months from December to February fleshing out that project. And if you're interested in that, you can go to my Instagram at KennyFresh1025 or at Refresher Point, and you click, my link tree. There's 2892. You can check that out to see what that's all about. We were just telling different local stories of Louisville. And so that was really dope. That's like the biggest company I've ever worked with. It was really nice. just to have something like that to add to the resume. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so because of that, we had to buy a camera and we were doing stuff. So I've kind of started leaning into photography more, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And so that brings us up to like March of 2021. And I knew I had done a collaboration poem for this organization called Kentucky Refugee Ministries, KRM, back in 2020. They were celebrating 30 years of ministry, of helping people from across the world come and restart their lives, essentially. They've been doing that for 30 years. So they asked for a poem for their initiative called Art Makes Home. I wrote a poem called Art Makes Home. So that was lit. And then in 2021, they reached out to me in March and said they wanted me to come to the South Central Regional Library. It was and perform. So it was like my first in-person performance since the start of the pandemic. So I'm like, okay, did that. That was cool. I think I went April 14th. They aired it April 24th. So that was cool. And then I had the idea in April. I like, I really want to do some interviews. So I did like 2 or 3 interviews for National Poetry Month. So that was cool. I also was doing lots of virtual performances. So I was able to perform for a organization based out of Illinois. I had a poet friend who connected me with them, and they were really nice. So that was fun, which has led to some other possible opportunities. I had a whole book tour planned, like for 2020, and all of those a lot of places were cool, and then of course fell apart. So I had the idea, well, let me spin the block, let me perform virtually. So like I was supposed to be in St. Louis performing at the St. Louis Poetry Center, but instead we just did it virtually this year. So I did that for them. So that was really cool. It was me and 2 other poets. I was a part of a virtual art fair for Kentuckians for the Commonwealth. They asked for a poem called Just Imagine. They asked for artwork, and their initiative was Just Imagine. So typically when I do stuff for these people, I just kind of title my poem whatever their event is. And so Just Imagine, talking about imagining a better Kentucky. So that was like, okay. And then most recent one was July 8th. That was actually supposed to take place in June. I teamed up with the Jeffersonville Township Public Library in Jeffersonville, Indiana, virtually to do just an hour-long set of my poems, collected poems from Equilibrium and just other poems I've done throughout the years. And so it was funny because we were supposed to do it in June, but only one person signed up, and that was my sister-in-law. And so, a lot of people wait to the last minute to sign up for anything. And I'm like, I don't know if she knows my demographic. We kind of wait till like the last minute. And so I had to explain, she's like, well, we really want to make it worth it. So, we'll push it back. So I'm like, push it back a month. And so I was like, I really was calling on my community, like, hey, everybody, because I actually got calls. It was funny because people didn't sign up. I think they thought by clicking going on the Facebook event, like, no, you got to go click on the link, go to the library form and say that you're coming and register. And so I got calls. My mom called me. I had inboxes like, why did they cancel it? And I'm like, nobody signed up. So this time I made sure, hey, guys, you have to sign up. And so we went from one person signing up in June to like, was it like 14, it might've been like 20 something people signed up, and like 14 actually showed up, which is amazing.
That is really
yeah. So I did that back in July. And some other things I've been working on. Like I said, I've been leaning more into photography since I've got a camera now. So I actually entered my first photography contest this week or late last week. It's from August 1st to August 31st. I'm going to upload as many photos as I can. I like macro photography, which is, close-ups of bugs and things like that. And also some landscape stuff. So that's, just really leaning into that. That's something that I didn't really realize I had a passion for, but I'm really enjoying it. And I've gotten good at editing photos. So that could be another side hustle. I've really been, we were talking before, I've kind of really been investing in my setup because that was one thing in 2020 was I really started to lean into YouTube more, lean in more into being not just a performing artist, but just writing. So that was kind of good that the National Geographic contract that I got was able to, use those that storytelling aspect that I have, as well as the writing and interviewing folks. So just leaning into different aspects of my business. And I'm trying to think of what else. Oh yeah, there's been a lot of stuff. I'm not even barely scratching the surface. So one thing, I entered some poems into this, not really a contest, but one of my goals, because I've been performing, this year marks 10 years of performing in the Louisville area. And I realized, I'm like, I think I live in Indiana. So I'm like, I think I've kind of been ignoring the Indiana market. So one of my goals this year was to be more intentional about just being more involved with the Indiana side of things. So I saw a call go out through the Indiana Arts Commission that they were accepting poetry for this digital archive. It's called Inverse. So the current poet, Indiana Poet Laureate, this is their initiative. And so pretty much you submit 3 poems, the Poet Laureate looks at it, the Indiana State Library have some people that look at it, and one other entity looks at it, and they decide if they like your poems or not. It'll go into their digital archive, which will be available for the public to look at. And so I entered in April. I was notified in June that all 3 of the poems I selected were added to the archive. And so they're supposed to be available in August for people to read. So I can tell you the 3 that I submitted was Meticulous, which is a long time poem that I've been doing forever. How Are You Really? And then I think Art Makes Home those are the 3 that are in there. And then also I'm a part of a Louisville poet Facebook group. And there was a big mural that was going up on the Kroger in the West End. I think it was 28th Street, I believe. Or 8, I can't remember. It's in the West End. And so they were also asking for poets to send in haikus or short poems that would be sandblasted into the sidewalk, like right next to the street. And so I submitted a haiku and it was selected. So that was dope. So those 2 really big opportunities to have my poetry archive, one physically, one digitally. And so that was cool. And I've really been pushing the book. One of my newest updates for Equilibrium is, as of a couple of weeks ago, it is now available on Amazon Kindle. It is now available in the Apple Bookstore, and you can get it on Nook. Like if you're like not quite, I don't know if I think it's Books A Million. If you use the Nook app, so you can get it digitally. So that was something I really wanted to make available for folks. Also, May passed, and I started recording an album in 2017, and I've been sitting on some acapellas for like ever. And so I decided, hey, May 14th, I really want to put out a project. So I put out an acapella spoken word EP called the Apex EP, 5 tracks, one of which is DNA. And DNA is not in the book, is not anywhere. So this EP is the only place that you can get that DNA poem. And that, for those who didn't watch, that's the poem I performed at the last interview that Kanina had. So that, go watch that. If you like it, you want to hear it on repeat, go cop the project, which is on Bandcamp. So that's fun. And the EP came out May 14th, and I didn't realize, who else dropped May 14th? J. Cole. And some other people. So yeah, so J. Cole dropped and somebody else dropped. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'll still promote. And it's been getting some good spins and some good support. I love getting the notification, cha-ching, so-and-so, paid such and such. And it's crazy because the EP $7, but almost everybody who's bought it has like bumped it up and just kicked in an extra $3 and make it even 10. So that's really cool. Bandcamp is one of those platforms that lets the fans support, that want to support, and lets them support. And I saw a post on Twitter. It's like, I hope that you guys, if you want to support indie artists, you go to Bandcamp, because they're the only platform that believes that artists deserve to eat. So that was something that I thought was really, really cool. So it's been getting good support. I've actually had a couple of purchases as recent as this past weekend. So it's lit. I'm trying to think. I think that's everything. I've really been pushing the book. People are asking for another one. I'm in the middle of writing. But one of the things I don't want to do is I don't want to be one of these people that pops out a book every 6 months to a year. Because it really doesn't give you time to like promote the last one. It's like, if your last one ain't really do that well, what makes you think it's time for a second one? So I'm writing, and it'll probably come out next spring. but I really want to push equilibrium because I just believe there's a lot of people who haven't interacted with the book yet, and it's gotten so much support. Like I got a email in like June, no, like April, so June, saying that my April sale that I made a decent amount because it was National Poetry Month. And one of my friends who had me on his podcast, he said on the show he's been buying the book for people just to get them to check it out. So I'm like, the support is real. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Well, it looks like, I mean, from what you have told me, and all the things that you said that you wanted to do, it looks like you went above and beyond and making those happen. Like when you spoke those things, like you literally manifested it. But the question I kind of want to ask you is that, after you did this interview, were you very specific or intentional about like knocking off like these things off your list, or did God open doors for you throughout the entire time?
That's a good question. I think it was because it was crazy because when I went back and watched to prepare for this interview, I'm like, a lot of this stuff has happened, which is lit. Because you were talking about 5 years in the future. This stuff happened within a year and a half.
Yeah.
So almost everything, even the touring, I was kind of touring virtually, you know what I'm saying? And the only thing I don't think I've done is the commercial or movie, but the year is young and so but no, I think just doors opened. But I think one of the things is a lot of people, we're really good about writing stuff down and speaking stuff in the atmosphere, but we don't follow it up with any work. So that was kind of the thing with all these opportunities. I don't really think I chased too many of them down. It was like for the digital archive thing, that was email. I got the email. I'm like, well, I don't want to wait to the last minute because I'm bad about that. Artists, a lot of creatives are bad about that. So I'm like, let me just knock that out. I'm a part of this Facebook group. They throw in multiple opportunities and they mention that. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. I don't really write haikus. That's not my thing at all. But I just kind of stayed up one night and like I think I submitted 3, but I wrote like 5 or 6 of them and I sent my best 3 and one of them got selected. So I thought that was cool. So just putting in that work. And even with the book, it was written, but I could have just waited. I mean, if I tried to wait till the pandemic was over, I'd be still waiting. So that was something about just moving forward in faith. And I really was doubtful about that. Like, who's gonna support, especially because it's not, I was very insecure because it's not very big. Chapbooks they're not very thick. So they're like, most chapbooks are like 30 pages or less. And I wanted something travel size, but I'm like, for the price point, will people invest? And I really had to get over myself. And my wife was really instrumental in helping me get over myself and be like, you know what, just try it, have faith in it. You worked on it, we worked on it, put it out there and see what happens. And then also just to keep promoting it. Because I think that's something that we do in this world. We throw it out, it's out there. People, the real will support. Like, well, there's 7 billion people in the world. There's a vast majority of them who haven't heard it. So keep posting. And a lot of times I think pride gets in the way because sometimes it feels like I'm begging. And it's like, I'm begging for support. I'm begging for people. It's like, no, the algorithm, the way it's set up, there's probably a whole bunch of people who would never have known. Like I had a friend who bought the EP. We went to college together. He's like, yo, bro, I'm sorry. I think he asked me was I still doing poetry. And it's like, I've got a artist page for 5-6 years, a website for 7 years. He didn't know. And so that's just something I had to get over. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of people who don't know. So you just got to keep posting until you know, until people know. And then they tell their people. And that's kind of what it is. It's like, if a lot of people aren't coming, maybe your friends don't really think you're dope. Because that's how you build an audience, is friends and family. And if they think you're great, they'll tell their friends and family, who will tell their friends and family. That's kind of how you organically build something. So if it's not going well, you have to wonder, is the product good? Am I good at presenting the product? Do people just not know about it? And we live in such an algorithm-driven society that you really got to find a way to cut through. So once you cut through, then you'll start to reach your people. So, but yeah, just putting in the work. And that's kind of what 2020 and 2021 have all been about. 2020 was really like stumbling, pivoting, trying to find a way to make stuff happen and work because your whole plan is gone. Like I was supposed to be in like 5 or 6 different like states Like I had a whole tour plan. I was like, oh, and they all said yes too. I'm like, oh man, this is, you know what I'm saying? This isn't some up in the air. This was concrete. But you know, everything happens for a reason. And you know, it's crazy. A lot of people call 2020 trash. But for me personally, 2020 was one of the most lucrative years as an artist, which is crazy because like my field is dependent on being able to see people and interact with people. And like that didn't happen, but it happened virtually. And I've got opportunities and things like that. And 2020 and 2021 have just continued to blow my mind. So I really think that, long story short, that it was really just God opening the doors, but I had to have the faith and the strength of character and the discipline to walk through those doors.
I definitely agree with you on that. And I think that, you know, since this season is all about, you know, manifestation and actually saying, you know, speaking things into existence, you know, a big thing, and you mentioned it multiple times, is that it's not, you know, we kind of live in a world where it's like you just manifest it, right? And it comes. You know what I'm saying? Those self-help books and like all these people, like, I manifested the life I want. I manifested my career and my husband. Like they just go around here manifesting, right? But that's not exactly how it works, right? Not when you're a believer, right? When you operate from that standpoint, that it's about faith and works as well. It's a combination, right? And when we say works, you know, Kenny had to do work, right? He had to put the book together and to do work, right, to get it out. And so, you know, and all the guests that I'm gonna have, you know, they spoke it, but then turned around and got to work, right? And that's what's important. And I'm like, I just wanted to make that point. Like, we talking about manifestation, but it ain't about just sitting at home and just hoping that opportunities are gonna just jump in your lap.
Yeah, faith without works is dead, and I think people kind of stay there. But the next verse or two says, as far apart, like faith without works is like the body without the soul. Like it literally can't function. So whatever dream or goal you have, it's got to be, you know, you have to have the faith to write it down, speak it. But that works part is very. I should have worn my. There's a shirt that I got from this company that I like called Kings Arise Clothing, and it pretty much says, "Pray, then do the work." And that's kind of what this whole thing is: pray and do the work. You know what I'm saying? I think Tony Evans said faith is measured by your feet. A lot of people say, I got faith, but they're not moving. It's like, no, man, your faith is measured by how you move. And I think if more people understood that, I think we'd have a lot less people frustrated with their dreams. Like, because, you know, a lot of people are trying to jump in the content creator space because they see certain YouTubers making, you know, thousands of dollars, maybe even millions. But it's like, yo, if you look at, like, there's a guy that my family and I like to watch, Andre, Black Nerd Comedy. He's been on YouTube for like 12 years.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, so he deserves to be on Nickelodeon rapping the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles song. He deserves to go to Japan and watch. And I think it was Endgame before it came out. Like all these doors are open because he was consistent for 12 years. Yeah. You know, so 12 plus.
People feel like it's overnight.
It looks easy. All you need is, and because of technology, this is really easy to do, but it's actually hard at the same time because you got to be consistent. Like with my YouTube, like I'm at like 24 subscribers. I've got like maybe 30 videos, and like it's just not enough. Like I got to put in more work on the YouTube side and really understand. And there's more to it than turning on the camera. Like I'm watching videos, and like, you know, when it comes to this stuff, you got to come up with the 3 T's: the topic, the thumbnail, and the oh man, I forgot the third T: topic, thumbnail. And there's another T that's very important. But yeah, title. That's the title.
Yeah, sometimes that's clickbait.
Yeah, sometimes you got to come up with a clickbaity title, and that's going to get the people to come. So yeah, those 3 T's. So I'm watching videos. I've got a playlist called Photography and Videography Tips that I go back and reference. So like, yeah, it's a lot of work. Anything that you want to do, like I love there's a YouTuber named Ruslan that I like. He says the only thing that grows overnight is weeds, right? You trying to build anything else that's worth having, it's going to take time and effort. But, you want something to grow overnight? That's a weed, fam. That's not a flower. It's a weed.
Yeah, and I think people, just I think for us, and especially with More Movement Crew, we talk about purpose, and I think that that's the driving factor when you know that like you're not just doing this because if I have a goal of doing this podcast because I know it's gonna get me money, then that's not necessarily, gonna continue to drive me. When I don't make no money, am I gonna stick with it? So I feel like purpose actually, definitely drives you to continue to keep going. And then you talked about, just like this apprehension about putting out the book. I put out a book too, and I was just like, who's gonna read this book? Like, who is really about to read my book? And then, God would remind me like this, what is in this book has like the power to really deliver people and to really set some people free. So this book is never gonna be old, right? It's never gonna phase out because you're telling your story. And so, can you speak a little bit about how you kind of got over this, like, this hesitancy about putting the book aside from your wife convincing you?
Yeah, that was big. It was really just like, yo, this is something that you wanted to do. Like, it was one of those things like, if not now, then when? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no telling when this pandemic will let up. So just put it out and give your. And there's also, I think I might have had the thought that give your supporters a chance to support you, because I've had people ask me, and I think we might have. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I wanted to put out a spoken word album, but everybody else was saying book. Like my most loyal like followers, like shout out to Miss Lavon Chatton. She's a lady out in Kentucky. She was like, she's been asking for a book for like 7 years, like since she first met me. And I'm like, okay, well, let me. And then I think what got me to do it, because even my wife was like, put out a book, put out a book. I thought I didn't realize that it's actually cheaper to put out a book than an album. So that was a big thing. But also it was just like, okay, don't let one monkey stop the show. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Like, you was gonna put it out anyway. Why should the fact that there's a pandemic? People buy stuff online all the time. So that was just it. It was just like, let's just do it. Here goes something. Like, there's, most people say, here goes nothing. I'm like, no, here goes something. Let's click the button on this and see what happens. And it's been great. And I've gotten some testimonials. Like, I've had a friend when I was on someone's channel, like off air, dude's like, yo, this is a small but like mighty read. And I'm like, I appreciate that. And a lot of people said that if they really like it, it's blessed them. So I'm like, okay, see, but it wouldn't have been out there. People wouldn't have had a chance to interact with those words if I didn't put it out there. And I'm still, and even doing the library set, this lady, like, if I didn't put the book out, because I wouldn't have been able to. I don't think I would have gotten that performance at the library. After that performance, the lady, shout out to Miss Harriet Goldberg, she messaged me and was like, I really enjoyed the book and I'm gonna buy 3 copies, one for myself, one for a coworker, and one for the library. So my book is gonna be in a public library now, and I gotta check and see if it's there yet. But that's crazy, and that none of that would have happened if I didn't put the book out. So it's one of those things where, like, one decision to do or not do something has ripple effects, and we'll see what comes of it.
Mm-hmm. That's man, I think that's just the power of like operating in faith as well. Like, you don't really know what the outcome is. You know that you just need to do it, right? You need to just and put it out, and it is what it is. But I think that the beauty in it, right, is that for us as creators and content creators, like, we're not putting the content out for approval. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're putting the content out because of purpose. So if people, whatever people say in the comments is not really what I'm gauging my decision to put it out as, right? I'm putting it out because I know that this is a message that I'm supposed to be putting out, or what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think because we can get really caught up in that, especially, when you're putting out content and you're creating content and you get comments or you don't get enough likes and stuff like that, you start to feel some kind of way. And I think that for me, God has had to work with me with that at the beginning. When I first started my podcast, it's like, man, I'm not getting that many views. I mean, at the same time, I wasn't really promoting like I probably should have anyway.
That's everybody.
But-
That's another thing. I had to be honest too. Like, yo, I'm not getting what I want because I'm not putting, because you literally do get out what you put in. And a lot of people just want to release stuff like, did you promote? How often did you promote? You know, like, I don't know. I follow a lot of artists and creatives on Twitter, and a lot of them say the same thing every now and then. It's like, yo, that thing you did a month ago, keep promoting it, keep pushing it. And I've done it. I've tried it before. Like, you know what? It's been a month since this EP's been out. Let me just tweet about it. I tweeted it out or threw it on Instagram, one of the two. And somebody bought it within 5 minutes of that post. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I gotta keep pushing. Even if it feels like John the Baptist, even if it feels like you're just yelling into the wilderness, somebody's listening. Out of 7 billion people, somebody will like your content if it's good. Like, once you get past the hurdle of if it's good, if it's adding value, then it just becomes the thing of finding your people. But your people can't find you if you're nowhere to be found.
Right. That's true. So it means if you're watching, that means you have to release it, right? If you know there's something that you're called to say or do or put out, you got to release it first. Like, how are they going to know?
Right. Yeah. How are they going to know?
So in the interview, we talked about for a little bit, we talked about people trying to get freebies, right? Trying to request free stuff. So
let's talk about it.
Let's talk about these freebies, because I think now, you know, you're at the place where you even said, like, I start off with, what's your budget? So have you been approached with people more inclined to like pay, and are you able to like really charge the price that you want to charge for your skill set, or like where are you with paying?
Man, you know what? The reality is, like, my goal now, my new thing now is like, I'm not stepping outside in the middle of a pandemic for free. Like, that's done. Actually, it's hilarious because last year, somebody from a church reached out to me. They wanted me to do some voting event. They wanted me at this vote event in November. They wanted me to do 2 poems about voting. Cool. Are you gonna pay me? And they're like, we will be unable to pay you at this time. Nope. And it was funny because, you know, it's this thing where all you gotta do sometimes, if you want people to hear how stupid stuff sounds, just repeat it back to them. So let me get this straight. You want me to come out in the middle of a pandemic, right? There was no vaccine yet, so nobody's vaccinated. In the middle of a pandemic, right around voting time, probably one of the most like controversial elections, right? So I'm Black, and you got all these people and their feelings about Trump. You want me out there in the middle of that, and you want me to do it for free? Like, it was a no-brainer. I'm like, nah. As soon as they said no, I'm like, nope. So that happens, or that's happened. Had people ask, I think to somebody, like I said, somebody was in my inbox about in person, and it's like, well, we didn't even get to the budget because like, I'm just not doing it. And that's another fake thing. I made the decision at the beginning, like March 15th, we did of last year. I'm not doing any in-person performances. I just had to have the faith that God was still going to provide and open up opportunities, even if it was virtual. And I did make 2 exceptions. One was KRM, because I asked them what their protocols were going to be for, you know, and they were really good. They were like, look, they had temperature checks before we even got in the library. They were spraying off the stuff, spraying off the machines, or spraying off the microphone coverings, right? And the only thing that I think I needed to do that they hadn't thought of was, let me just spray the air where people were just performing at. Because, you know, you got people yelling, you know, screaming and singing. So that was it. But they were very well prepared. Other places, there weren't any protocols. So that was another thing. So you want me in the middle, and you ain't got no protocols, and you don't want me to pay? Like, you know, we've seen stuff of churches online. People just be yelling, nobody spaced out, nobody wearing masks. It's just not worth it. So I still got the free stuff. I still got, here's a funny thing. I had an opportunity I had to turn down because so I did that thing virtually this year. I think it was March of this year for an Illinois-based company, right? And so I actually had the poet laureate of Illinois reach out to me. I'm like, how did she see me? And she was talking about this residency program that she had, and it was going to be like 4 figures to come out to where somewhere in Illinois and teach a community how to do a poem. I'm like, oh, that's lovely. And I'm like, what did you see me? She's like, well, I saw you at that one event. There was like the virtual event with like 6 or 7 people. She was one of those people. And she wanted me to come out, but then I was like, well, I actually live in Indiana. This residency, it sounds like you have to live in Illinois. And she's like, you're right, you have to live in Illinois. She's like, I'm not even gonna, because I sent samples of my poetry because she asked, I'm not even gonna read the samples because I'm gonna be tempted to change the rules. So that was a good problem to have. Like, yo, she thought it was dope enough to she really wanted me to come, but it just couldn't happen because it would go against the rules. Like, you have to be a resident of Illinois to take place in the Illinois residency. So that was something that was like I had to turn down. We both we couldn't make it work. But that was really cool that there was an opportunity on the table based off of something I did virtually. And then there's some times where I've had to negotiate, like it couldn't meet exactly what I wanted, but it's still a good opportunity. But yeah, I still get free stuff, even in the middle of a pandemic, which kind of shows you that people aren't really thinking. Like, you want me to go out and expose myself to germs and bring that back to my family, because that's another thing too. Like, I'm leaving the comfort and safety of my home to go do this, and then I come back and I might have brought something back to the family. So I've only done 2 in person, and unless the bag is right, unless the protocols are right, it's going to be just virtual from now on until whatever. And I am starting to get the performance bug because people are doing open mics. And I miss it, and I want to get out there, and I know, like, yo, I got this book. If I went, I would kill my performance, which causes people to do an impulse buy. I know I could make these books move, but it's just like, is it worth it? Is it worth the risk? Because a lot of these open mics, they don't have any COVID protocols in place. It's just like people, and if you go through my Instagram, you will not see a picture of me with no mask on if we outside. If you see me doing my videos and my reels, I'm probably in my car, in my home. Like, was masked up. You know what I'm saying? Like we was wiping down doors before the pandemic. So you can only imagine what we're doing now, right? So it's just one of those things. And I do miss performing. I do miss the crowd. I do miss connecting with the crowd. But like, everything's just gonna be virtual, or it's gonna have to be in a place that's done safely. But yeah, no, it's crazy out here. Just go look at people's Facebooks. You'll see what people are doing, and it's like, and for me to sidestep the live performance stuff and be like, I'm gonna trust God that He's still gonna provide. I do get a little bit of FOMO. I do feel like I'm missing out, but I'm like, the opportunities that are going on in the backdrop are far more lucrative than going out and risking. But yes, long story short, I'm still getting freebie questions. I'm still getting people want me to come out. But I'm also still getting people inboxing me asking, hey, can you do this? I like to, I can pay you this much. So it's a balance. But it's just really shocking, especially in 2020, that people really wanted me to come out to do something for free in one of the most like controversial and just like times with no money. 2 custom poems about voting for no money.
Wow.
That.
Wow. I mean, some people are like, hey, the only thing I can do is ask. You know what I'm saying? And some people are willing to do it, and some people are not. So they just gonna see what they can get.
Yeah. What about you? Have you had any people since we've talked? Anybody try to get you to do anything for free in the year of our Lord 2020 or 2021?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I've been doing, during 2020, I did just some small business, opportunity, like small website setups. And you want people try to get the cheapest plan, and they try to like select the cheapest option, but try to get you to do the most work within that tiny,
Mm-hmm.
budget that they've said that they have. And so you are trying to pay me this minimum amount, but you got like champagne taste and you want the Cadillac experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you over here, with I don't even know what kind of budget you got.
Right, right.
Right.
As you were talking, I don't know how I forgot this, but I also Refresher Point was incorporated as an official business in 2020, February 18, 2020, and then also I became Better Business Bureau accredited end of like December 2020, and so that's something too. So just kind of legitimize the business because I think some people have the question if this is a hobby. It's like, no, this is a business, especially now. It's a business, and I want it to be treated as such. And that's something that I have to remind myself because for a while I was, I don't know if necessarily I was the free guy, but I was definitely the nice guy. I was definitely kind of what you were just talking about, going above and beyond for like minimal compensation, minimal promotion, even if it's doing something for free. Like the least somebody could do is promote it, share it, put it in front of their audience.
And then you spoke about, your purpose. And I always ask people what their purpose is. And you said that you believe your purpose is using your gift to encourage people and be a beacon of light, of hope and light. So how do you feel now when it comes to your purpose?
I think it's still the same. I think another thing I think I said in the last interview was that also is to speak to people's pain, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing. I did a lot of writing in 2020. So a lot of this next book coming out 2022 is a lot of it's going to be the stuff that I wrote in 2020 and 2021 about a particular theme. And so I think that there's still a lot of that going on. Like if you get equilibrium, the whole theme is balance, right? And how we need it. And I talk about from a spiritual aspect of balance. I think it's been well received because I think it's just something that we need. So I'm trying to write stuff that I believe people need. A lot of it's very introspective, thinking things that I need to do, and then just writing it creatively and figuring that other people might relate with it. Even some of the stuff that I've been blessed to write. So like, just imagine, I start off the poem like, imagine if we didn't have to wage war on poverty because we paid our workers properly. You know what I'm saying? So talking about stuff like that was really, and just observing the social climate last year and this year, that a lot of that is kind of what I've been writing about. And even hope and light. Like I wrote a poem called The Gunshot That Almost Was, which was based on a real life encounter that I had. July 10th, 2011, I was robbed at gunpoint. So, just a month ago marks 10 years of being spared from that. And so just really going back and writing about that from a different perspective. I think I got a line in the poem. It's like 10 years ago, I was able to talk a man out of killing me. And now 10 years later, I'm able to talk about it willingly. God literally gave me 10 extra years, and I don't think it was to be average. All I know is I'm here for a reason. And if you're reading this or hearing this, so are you. So that's the kind of stuff that I've been writing. I'm in the middle of writing a poem about normalcy. I tweeted the other day that this return to normal, this real begging to return to normalcy is killing us. And yesterday was just sitting around musing about the fact that normal doesn't really exist. So I'm trying to write a poem about that. And it's not finished, but I'm loving the direction that it's going. And I'll read you the first few lines if that's cool.
Yeah.
God didn't make no normal. After a 6-day work week, he didn't kick back, observe his handiwork, and say, this is normal. You were stamped in the image of excellent. You are a collector's edition, extremely limited. Your bent corners don't diminish your value. Life doesn't leave us the luxury to live in mint condition. No matter the circumstance, we could all use some fixing. Normal ain't nothing but the standard someone else wants for you. So that's like the very beginning of the poem. I started yesterday at like 3:12. So I'm gonna, talk about stuff that I see.
Yeah.
When I write, I'm like, yo, what's in my heart today? And my morning routine is like pray. It's pray. I think I had to pray, read, write, but then I was going through my old journals. And I think it's actually supposed to be pray, write, read last. So I'm trying to get back into that, and whatever is in my mind, bubbling in my heart or whatever, I try to write on that. And a lot of times a poem could take weeks, it could take days, like that gunshot that almost was poem took. Just flipping through my journal because that was one of the last poems. That's like my favorite thing I've written this year because it's really based on like a real experience. And I sent the voice memo to several people and they were like, yo, this is crazy. Like you really like painted the picture. That one took me from July 12th to July 18th to write the gunshot that almost was. So that's kind of the things that I do. So it's still hope. It's still, but it also talks about the darkness, the light and the shadow. But yeah, that's the writing. And I think one thing I challenge myself to do now is to paint more of a picture. I did do in 2020, I did do a lot of submitting for literary magazines and I was rejected by them all. And I really at one point I got discouraged and I thought about switching my writing style up. I asked for some advice and one poet was like, I think he said I was too direct because a lot of these people they write real abstract and like it could mean many different things. And then I tried to write like that. He told me I rhymed a little too much, and I took some of the criticism. But then I was just thinking, I'm like, well, a lot of the people that really rock with the content, they really like the fact. I think people like the fact that it's to the point. Like, yeah, I'm telling you what this is about, but it's still creative and you can still glean from it. So I'm not gonna try to write and be more abstract. I'm gonna write to the point, but I'm gonna get to the point. The goal is to get to the point creatively. So like that poem about normal, like I literally wrote normal don't exist. I'm like, no, I'm gonna cut that out and I'm gonna get to that point a little bit more creatively. Because that is the point of the poem. Like normal doesn't exist, but there's a creative way to say it. So that's some of the things. I'm really trying to level up with the writing. And it's funny because people are like, you're so dope. I'm like, why aren't I getting published then? Because a lot of these literary magazines and stuff, I realized that I don't write like any of them. And so if it's not for them, it'll be for whoever. Right. But over the 10 years of writing and performing, it's blessed a lot of people. So I'm doing something right. It just might not be what they want, which is fine. Because there will be some magazines that say yes. Like it was accepted in this digital Indiana archive. So the poet laureate thought my poems were good enough for the digital archive. The Indiana State Library thought they were good enough. And poetry is one of those things like art, it's just very subjective. So you can't really find, I like what Kriss said. He's like, if you live for people's acceptance, you'll die from their rejection. So trying to write good stuff because you wanted to connect with people, but also not like planting your flag in the hill of needing their acceptance. I think you kind of said something like that. We're not doing this for affirmation. Right. We're doing it because we're supposed to, but it also has to be effective. So walking that line, that fence of, you know what I'm saying? That's something that I've been working on.
Wow. So, I mean, I guess to kind of wrap up this interview, like what can viewers and what can we expect to definitely see coming up? And then, of course, remind people where they can find you, where they can reach out to you, and where they can buy merch.
Yeah, coming up. Things are about to slow down a little bit. I've got a nice contract that's gonna be over the course of several months. So I won't really speak on that, but that's coming up. So that's gonna take up most of my fall. Winter will probably be really trying to finish up the book for next year. I'm gonna really lean more into YouTube. So you can expect more YouTube videos from me. That's something you can expect. I'm gonna keep pushing my EP because I really like it and people like to hear. People like reading, but if you want to hear it, and support it at the same time, go to my Bandcamp. And I'm trying to really think because this year is really I feel like we're turning the corner on this year, and all I've got is the big thing. And if there's anything else, I'll tell people. But that's kind of it right now. I kind of go month to month. I try to plan a few months out, but that contract is going to take up the next like few months. So I'm excited, gearing up for that. I got like I said, new YouTube videos, which some will be poems, some will be different things, trying to find my niche, find content that adds value, but people want at the same time. And you can find me, the best place you can find me is www.refresherpoint.com. That's refresh, ERPOINT.com. If you go there, you scroll down, you'll find all my social media, but I really want people to go to the website, because the website's where you can find the merch. I think there might be some sales going on. There's going to be some sales in the month of August. So check that out on the merch. The book, you can click and it'll take you to Amazon. You just click on chapbook tab, it'll take you there. I really want people to just go run the numbers up on the website, because the website is like my house. Like, I don't own Facebook. And we've seen where like Instagram shuts down for a day, people freak out. Like, yo, if Instagram shuts down, are you no longer a model? Are you no longer a business? So I have my website is the hub, and everything else kind of branches out from that. But go visit the website, check it out. I do have blogs. That's something that I don't really talk about a lot, but I have blogs on my website. And yeah, it's just a lot of things. Yeah. Join the newsletter. I really try to I catch people up in the first half. In the second half, I try to encourage people. And I've got our community, and I try to shout out the people that are in that newsletter community that have things going on. Like one of my subscribers, shout out to Tamara Jones, TJ, she is me. She just had a birthday. There's people that have had babies, all that. I try to shout all that out in the newsletter. So she just had a birthday, and she was on a online poetry show. So I try to really encourage, because it's the community. Like, anybody can go to the Facebook, and I appreciate every like and comment. But the people that are really into it, like, I got a good 30 strong newsletter subscribers. So I've got 1,000 Facebook followers on Facebook, which I'm grateful for. My personal Instagram has about 1,118. My business Instagram has about 700 something. But like, the inner circle is really a good strong 30. And Kanina's in that circle. I mean, you need to check your emails though. I don't think you've opened a newsletter in a while. But I know you're busy though. You're busy. You super busy.
I'm in there.
You are in there. I appreciate that. Oh yeah. I'm trying to think, is there anything else going on? But yeah, website, go to my social medias, and that's the best way you can keep up with me. And go, like them, subscribe, follow. If you like the content, like it on YouTube, share it. You can request, and I'm not big time. Like, I try to respond to every like and comment. I don't like when people don't respond. Like, if you've got less than 1,000 followers, even if you got 1,000, you can respond to everything. Once you start getting like 300-400 comments, I get it. But I'm not there yet, in Jesus' name. I'm not there yet. So you will respond. You will get a response from me. You can message me. I'm super accessible. Like, I'm not big time like yet. Like, I'm not like, I'm aloof. You know what I'm saying? So I want to connect with everybody. I want to use my gift with everybody.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all the things that you are doing. I want to remind everybody to make sure that they check Kenny out. Go to his website and make sure that you support. That's all it's about, especially for people who are walking in their purpose and being used to do what they're called to do. And so thank you so much for checking us out. Thank you for watching this episode. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Before I close, I do want to shout out SHAMEKA Parrish-Wright, who is running for mayor. And so I want to give her a shout out. She gave me some swag to rock today, so I'm rocking this in the episode. And I'll put her information also below too. But thank you for checking us out. We're going to be back with another episode with more guests, so you don't want to miss out. And until we see you again, have a blessed day.